So dozens of deadly and historic wildfires continue to wreak havoc on the West Coast. So far, at least 35 people have been confirmed dead across 3 states, and 24 are missing. Recovery crews in some of the hardest hit areas now face the daunting task of going from one destroyed home to the next. And the smoke from the fires are creating some of the worst air quality in the world. Portland, Seattle, and San Francisco are now all among the top 5 cities when it comes to air quality. The impact can even be seen from space. NASA's satellite images show smoke and small particles floating above the continental U.S., stretching all the way to the East Coast. This eerie footage from the city of Talent, Oregon, shows streets blanketed with retardant. But the efforts were no match for the flames. As you can see, the entire neighborhood was reduced to ruins. Jonathan Vigliotti is tracking the disaster.
Crews are using cadaver dogs to search through charred rubble in southeastern Oregon, looking for any sign of the missing.
Oh my God.
Fast-moving flames ripped through nearly half a dozen towns last week, giving residents little time to escape. Even heavy-duty fire retardant was not enough to save these homes. Some, like Ashley Britton, are seeing the destruction for the first time.
It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I had seen videos, but it's 1,000 times worse than I could have ever imagined.
Firefighters across the West have been battling shifting winds as they try to gain control of more than 100 fires. The hazardous smoke is so severe, the National Weather Service says it has created a haze across the country, all the way to Washington, D.C. And Alaska Airlines announced it was temporarily suspending flights to and from Portland, Oregon and Spokane, Washington due to the smoke. Dave Monroe lives in hard-hit Talent, Oregon.
There's something going on, that's for sure, man, because it's one thing after another. Every summer we're burning up.
In California, wildfires have now burned an area larger than the size of Connecticut. The state's governor, Gavin Newsom.
I've been on so many fires over the last 7, 8 years throughout the state. We've never been more stretched in our resources than over the last month.
All right, so Jonathan joins us now live from Chico, California, near the devastating North Complex fire. You know, hearing the gentleman in your piece there say, man, something's going on because, you know, one summer after the next, we're burning up. And it really does feel like every summer we're doing a story about fires in California. But now it's not just California. I mean, the West Coast is on fire and homes being destroyed. It's heartbreaking, but the lives being lost, absolutely devastating. 15 people have been killed by fires since it sparked just 1 month ago. I presume that's in your area because it's more than that for all of the fires. But can you just sort of paint us a picture of what it's like on the front lines right now? What kinds of conditions are the crews facing?
Yeah, and that number of 15 dead, that applies just here to Butte County alone. The wind and the heat continuing to be a problem through much of the week, though here in Chico where we are, it has come down quite a bit, and that has really given a lot of relief to firefighters on the front lines. In fact, they've been able to contain this fire by 40%. That's a major advancement considering just a few days it was really raging out of control. Here in Chico, we're actually at a staging area. You could see the fire command post behind me. There are dozens of fire trucks, and we're watching as firefighters are getting ready to start their day and relieve those firefighters that have been working on the front lines overnight. Their mission is really twofold. Yesterday, we were there on the front lines as we watched firefighters go deep into the mountains where this fire is now burning in very remote areas. They, of course, are going to work on continuing to contain that fire line. But then, of course, the crews that are going in to clear out the roads, a lot of fallen trees and debris, trying to clear that access so that recovery teams can go and can assess the damage and can continue to look for the missing. We mentioned that number of 15 dead. There are still 7 people here in Butte County alone that are missing. And of course, we want to talk about Oregon just briefly, where there are 24 people that are still missing. And we're now getting word that mobile morgues are being brought in to assist in the disaster there. We're going to be heading there after we leave you here this morning.
Absolutely heartbreaking, Jonathan. And, you know, we saw that press conference yesterday with the governor of California and the president of the United States and how they tried to impress upon the president the importance of science and what science was telling us about the reasons we're seeing these fires. And now we're talking about the most intense type of forest fire. It's called a crown fire. Tell me about that and what makes it more difficult to contain.
Yeah, crown fires are defined by the kind of growth in which these fires burn through. So brush fire, it's relatively tame because it's small growth brush. The fires rip through very quickly. The access afterwards is very easy, and firefighters can pretty safely try to contain those fires as they burn. With these crown fires, you're dealing with mainly old growth forest, trees that are up to 50, 60 feet tall. The flames also reflect that. We have seen flames ourselves over the past few weeks up to 60, 70 feet tall. The fires don't just burn on the ground, they also burn on the trees and up in the canopy, which means the wind can then take those embers and blow them and spread the fire even more so. It's incredibly dangerous terrain for firefighters to work in. We have seen multiple cases where firefighters have had to hold back because it's just too unsafe to travel through some of the very steep terrain and the very narrow roads. And in fact, just last week, there were 2 cases of fire teams that actually had to deploy their fire shelters. These are these protective, reflective, metallic material that helps keep the flames away. And you only use them in very extreme circumstances. In fact, I can't even recall a time last year in California when they had to be deployed. That's how fast these fires overcame these firefighters. And in one instance, 3 firefighters were injured, one critically. We don't have an update on his condition, but it just shows you how quickly and how fast this fire caught them off guard.
Yeah, I mean, when I remember first learning about those kind of tent-like structures almost that you were talking about, and it was in Arizona, and it was a devastating fire, and those firefighters did not survive. The North Complex fire, there are some troubling parallels with the Camp Fire. The Camp Fire is the fire that destroyed the town of Paradise. We all remember 80 people were killed. The town was basically wiped off the map because of the blaze. Yeah. Can you give us an idea of what some of the similarities are? I know, like during when Paradise was destroyed, people said that they didn't actually hear the warnings to evacuate. They weren't aware of that fact. Do you know what California has been doing to make sure that everyone knows that they need to get out and they have plenty of time to get out?
Yeah, with the Camp Fire in Paradise, the Santa Ana winds really drove those flames, and in just a matter of hours, those flames grew and spread miles to Paradise. And if you recall then, Paradise residents called 911, and even then, 911 told them, you stay where you are fine. Of course, that did not, unfortunately, turn out to be the case. These are mandatory evacuation orders. In the past few weeks that we have been here, at times they were going off every hour or so, as officials really taking an active role to clear out people from neighborhoods that were near the front line. And for the most part, we have seen people heeding those warnings as we have gone through some of the aftermath, and towns that were completely wiped out. We have seen on the few homes that were standing in one area, Big Creek, which is just south of where we are, homes that had signs on them saying that there was nobody inside. So people certainly heeding those warnings and taking them seriously. But at the same time, the fires at times has grown so fast that the evacuation orders could not keep up. Last week, if you recall, hundreds of campers had to be evacuated because they did not get an evacuation. They were deep in the mountain, and they had to actually be plucked by National Guards and helicopters and brought to safety. And we're also hearing of unfortunate circumstances where people had to actually drive through the flames. They were woken up. It was too late. The flames literally at their doorstep. Back to Oregon, we heard of a family yesterday that we spoke with that was separated during this evacuation. The mother making her way in her car. She survived, but she was badly burned. Her young son and his grandmother tried to make it out in another car, but they could not. They were engulfed in flames and they died. So even as these evacuation orders continue to be handed out very quickly and are taken seriously, in some cases these fires turning into mega fires so quickly and spreading so rapidly, people simply can't keep up.
It's absolutely heartbreaking, as I said, Jonathan, to hear those stories of people who have perished in these blazes, and of course the survivors that you're memorializing. Thank you so much for your reporting. We appreciate it.
Thank you.